She said she was late at work. It was business as usual, nothing suspicious. But then I accidentally saw one detail that didn't add up. I decided to check. And here's what was there. You know that feeling when something just doesn't sit right? When the little details, things you wouldn't normally question, start adding up to a picture you don't want to see? Yeah, that's how it started for me. I've been married to Lisa for 20 years. 2 decades of life together, raising kids, paying bills, planning for the future. And in all that time, she's never been the soft, affectionate type. Lisa's always been intense, direct, brash even. When she wanted something, she made damn sure she got it. When she was upset, you knew. No guessing games, no passive-aggressive nonsense, just straight-up aggression. Sometimes it was exhausting, but I always told myself that's just who she was. That's Lisa. I never thought she'd be a cheater. Not because she was particularly loving or loyal, but because I figured if she wanted out, she'd just say so. She wasn't the type to sneak around. Or at least, that's what I used to believe. The first red flag wasn't even that big of a deal at first. It was a Wednesday evening, and she came home late from work. No call, no text, just strolled in an hour past her usual time like it was nothing. I asked about it, not because I was suspicious, but because we had a standing rule: if one of us was going to be late, we'd let the other know. Just common courtesy. Oh, it was a last-minute meeting, she said, shrugging off her coat. Couldn't get to my phone. Made sense. Her job as a project manager was demanding. Deadlines, clients, all that stress. I let it go. But then it happened again. And again. Each time, it was some excuse. Meetings running late, traffic, drinks with coworkers. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? Except Lisa hates her coworkers. She's spent years complaining about them, how lazy they are, how incompetent, how they dump their work on her. She'd always told me she had no interest in socializing with them outside of work. So why the sudden change? I started paying attention. I didn't say anything, didn't accuse her. Just watched. And it wasn't just her schedule that wasn't adding up, it was the little things. She started dressing nicer. Not just for work, but all the time. New lingerie, new perfume. I complimented her on it, and she brushed me off like it was nothing. She was on her phone constantly, but the second I walked into the room, she'd put it down. Face down. Always face down. And the worst part? She was getting meaner. Lisa's always had a sharp tongue, but this was different. It was like she resented me for something I didn't even do. Every little thing turned into a fight. If I asked her how her day was, she'd snap that I was interrogating her. If I tried to be affectionate, she'd push me away. Literally. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was being paranoid. That it was just work stress, or menopause, or whatever excuse I could come up with to explain why my wife of 20 years was acting like she hated me. But I knew. Deep down I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Then came the lie I couldn't ignore. One night she said she was staying late at work again. But when I glanced at the calendar, something clicked. It was a holiday, President's Day. Federal offices were closed. I didn't say anything right away. I just nodded and let her leave. Then, as soon as she was out the door, I grabbed my keys and followed. I didn't even know what I was expecting to find. Maybe I was hoping she really was at work, that I was just being a jealous idiot. But I wasn't. Her car wasn't at her office. It was across town, parked outside some bar I'd never heard of. I waited. Watched. 2 hours later she came out. Not alone. Some guy, tall, dark-haired, younger than me. They were laughing. Close. Too close. She touched his arm, and he leaned in, whispered something in her ear. And then she kissed him. Not just a peck. A real kiss. The kind we used to share, back when we still looked at each other like we were the only 2 people in the world. I drove home in silence, my mind racing. Should I confront her? Demand answers? But no, if she was lying this easily, she'd just lie again. I needed proof. So that night, after she fell asleep, I got to work. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. downloaded an app to monitor her phone activity, ordered a small hidden camera and placed it in the living room where she always took her calls. It felt dirty. Wrong. But I had to know. Because if I was right, if my wife, the mother of my children, was really betraying me, then everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. The next few days were torture. I barely slept. I barely ate. I'd look at her and wonder how long she'd been lying to me. Wonder how many times she kissed that guy before I caught her. How many times she told me she loved me while secretly laughing behind my back. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched. Listened. Tracked her every move. The GPS tracker showed patterns almost immediately. She wasn't just working late, she was going to the same bar every other night. Sometimes she stayed an hour. Sometimes longer. And it wasn't just a bar, there were trips to hotels, parking lots, places she had no reason to be. The phone tracker didn't give me access to her texts, but it showed me her call logs. One number kept popping up. The same number, over and over, every single day. I ran the number through a reverse lookup. No name. Just a disposable phone. A burner. She was being careful. But not careful enough. The hidden camera was my last resort. I set it up in the living room. It was motion activated, only recording when someone was there. I wasn't expecting much, just proof that she was sneaking off to make secret calls. The first few recordings were normal. Lisa on her phone, scrolling through emails, watching TV. Then, one night around 10 p.m., I got what I was waiting for. She called him. "Yeah, he's asleep," she said, her voice low. "No, I can't tonight. He's been acting weird. I think he suspects something." Silence. Then she laughed. "Oh, please. He'd never have the balls to do anything about it." I played the video again. And again. Each time, my stomach twisted tighter. How long had she felt this way? How long had she seen me as weak? That was the moment I stopped feeling sad. Now I was angry. I wasn't some clueless idiot she could keep in the dark forever. I wasn't weak. And I was done pretending I didn't know. But I still needed more. If I was going to confront her, I needed undeniable proof. Something she couldn't talk her way out of. So I waited. Tracked her every move. And then, one Friday night, the opportunity came. Lisa told me she had another work meeting. But her schedule said otherwise. She was meeting him. And this time, I was going to catch her in the act. But I could see when she was using certain apps. Snapchat? WhatsApp? The kinds of apps people use when they don't want a paper trail. And the camera in the living room? That was the hardest part. Because she wasn't just talking to him. She was talking about me. One night I sat in my car, parked down the street, listening through my phone. She was on a video call with him, curled up on the couch like a lovesick teenager. "Ugh, he's so pathetic," she was saying. "Like, I can't even stand being around him anymore. He's always in my face, asking me where I am, what I'm doing. It's suffocating." Brian laughed. "Maybe he suspects something." Lisa scoffed. "Even if he does, what's he gonna do? Cry about it?" They both laughed. It wasn't just the affair. It was the disrespect. The absolute contempt in her voice. I sat in that car staring at my house, the house I paid for, the house I had built a life in, and I realized something. Lisa didn't love me. She didn't even like me. I was just an obstacle. A paycheck. A convenience she could discard when it suited her. I should have confronted her right then and there. Should have barged in and thrown her out on the street. But I didn't. Because I wasn't done gathering evidence. I wanted everything. I wanted her lies, her betrayal, all of it, documented in a way she couldn't deny. I checked our bank statements. Lisa had a separate account I never paid attention to, one she used for personal expenses. But over the last 6 months, she'd been making large cash withdrawals. Thousands of dollars. I checked our home's security system. She'd disabled the cameras on certain nights, the nights she came home late. The more I uncovered, the more I realized this wasn't just a fling. Lisa wasn't just cheating, she was removing herself from our life, piece by piece. She was withdrawing large amounts of cash, lying about her whereabouts, and spending more time away from home. But what really set off the alarm bells? She started talking about our house. One evening, while she was in the shower, I went through her laptop. I knew she used it for work, but I also knew she wasn't careful about closing out her tabs. Sure enough, when I opened the browser, there it was, an email thread between her and a real estate agent. She was looking at apartments. Small, one-bedroom places. In the city. She hadn't told me anything. No mention of selling the house, no hint that she was planning to leave. But here she was, making arrangements like she was already gone. And then there was Brian. I kept tracking her movements. By now, I knew his address, his work schedule, his car. The more I watched, the clearer it became. Lisa wasn't just cheating on me with some random guy. She was building something with him. She spent nights at his place. She paid for dinners, for gifts. She even left work in the middle of the day just to see him. Meanwhile, at home, she treated me like dirt. Every conversation turned into a fight. She barely spoke to the kids. And when she did, she was impatient, irritated, like they were nothing more than a burden. The worst part? They noticed. My youngest, Danny, who's only 14, came to me one night while Lisa was out. "Dad," he said, shifting awkwardly. "Is Mom okay?" I forced a smile. "What do you mean, buddy?" He hesitated. "She's just different. She doesn't talk to us anymore. And when she does, she gets mad over nothing." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "She's just stressed with work." Danny looked at me for a long time, like he didn't believe me. Maybe because he already knew something was wrong. I felt sick. My wife was betraying me, and in the process, she was slowly disappearing from our kids' lives. And they had no idea why. No more doubts. No more suspicions. I needed undeniable, in-her-face proof. I wasn't going to wait around for Lisa to leave me on her terms. No. I was going to take control. So I set a trap. It was simple. Lisa had a pattern. Every Thursday, she left work late, which really meant she was heading straight to Brian's place. I knew the address, the parking spots, the layout of the building. I even knew that Brian lived on the 4th floor in apartment 4B. So that Thursday, I made sure I had everything ready. I told the kids I had a work emergency and that I'd be home late. I made sure Lisa thought I was busy. And then, once she left, I followed. I parked a block away and walked the rest of the way, my hood up, hands stuffed in my pockets to keep from shaking. The adrenaline was making my heart pound. When I reached Brian's building, I waited. Sure enough, Lisa's car was parked right out front. And just like clockwork, she appeared a few minutes later, walking up the steps, laughing into her phone. I could hear her voice as she passed me. "Yeah, he's still clueless. God, I don't know why I waited so long to do this." I clenched my teeth, forcing myself to stay calm. I needed proof. Losing my temper would accomplish nothing. So, I waited a few minutes and then slipped in through the side entrance. The lock was old, barely working. The security in this building was a joke. I crept up the stairs to the 4th floor. Apartment 4B. Voices inside. Lisa's laugh. And then moaning. I pulled out my phone, pressed record, and leaned in close to the door. Every disgusting sound, every whisper, every betrayal, I captured it all. I stood there for a solid minute, letting the audio record. Letting it sink in. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was enjoying it. The woman I had built a life with, the mother of my children, was in there, moaning for another man while I stood on the other side of the door, listening like a fool. I had seen enough. The next step was exposing her. I had the proof. The recording on my phone was crystal clear, Lisa's voice, Brian's voice, the unmistakable sounds of their betrayal. But that wasn't enough. I didn't just want to know the truth. I wanted her to face it. I wanted her to see the look in my eyes when I confronted her with the evidence, to watch her lies crumble in real time. And more than anything, I wanted the kids to know exactly who she really was. So I waited. Lisa spent the night at Brian's, just like I knew she would. She didn't even bother making up an excuse this time. No fake work meetings, no half-hearted attempt to explain herself. She just texted me around midnight. Spending the night at a friend's. Don't wait up. A friend. I stared at that message, my hands shaking with rage. By the time morning came, my plan was in place. Lisa usually got home around 6:30 a.m. after her little sleepovers, slipping in before the kids woke up. She thought she was so clever, so sneaky. But not today. Today, she was coming home to all of us. I woke up the kids early. Told them I needed them downstairs for something important. Danny and my older son, Jake, were confused but listened without argument. Lisa pulled into the driveway at 6:34 a.m., right on schedule. I was standing in the living room with our sons when she walked through the door. And the second she saw us, me, standing there with my phone in hand, the boys watching in silence, her face changed. The usual smugness, the cold indifference, it vanished. What's going on?" she asked, forcing a laugh. I didn't answer. I just hit play. The living room filled with her own voice. The laughter. The moaning. Brian's voice, murmuring something disgusting. Danny's face went pale. Jake clenched his fists. Lisa's expression twisted into something ugly. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, stepping forward. "What do you think?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. She looked at the boys, then back at me. "Turn that off. Right now." I didn't. I let the recording play all the way to the end. Then I said, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, please. You're being dramatic. This is between us. You had no right to drag the kids into this." Jake, my 17-year-old, stepped forward before I could respond. His voice shook with anger. "You cheated on Dad," he said. "You lied to us." Lisa rolled her eyes. "Oh, grow up, Jake. You don't understand marriage. This is complicated." "No, it's not," I cut in. "It's actually pretty simple. You lied. You snuck around. You humiliated me. And worst of all, you didn't care how this would affect any of us." She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "Oh my God! You're acting like I killed someone. Marriages end all the time. People cheat, people move on. So that's what this is." I interrupted. "You were just planning to move on? Without saying a word? Just keep sneaking around until you were ready to leave?" Jake stormed past her, heading upstairs without another word. Danny just stood there, staring at the floor, his hands shaking. And Lisa? She still didn't apologize. She still didn't care. But she sure as hell was pissed that I caught her. "You're such a coward," she hissed, stepping closer. "Spying on me? Playing this little recording for everyone? You're pathetic." I laughed, shaking my head. "You're calling me pathetic? You threw away our family for what? Some loser with an apartment in a crappy part of town. What does he have that I don't?" Then I said the words I had been holding in for weeks. "I want a divorce." Her eyes flashed with something I hadn't seen before, panic. "Wait," she said quickly, the aggression faltering for the first time. Let's talk about this, okay? I know you're mad, but..." I cut her off. "No, Lisa. You don't get to manipulate your way out of this. I already filed the paperwork." Lisa didn't take it well. The second the words left my mouth. "I want a divorce." Her entire demeanor shifted. The fake confidence, the smugness, the condescending attitude, all of it vanished. And in its place? Pure, unfiltered rage. "You're not leaving me," she spat, stepping closer, her finger jabbing at my chest. "You don't get to walk away like you're the victim here." I laughed coldly. "That's exactly what I'm doing, Lisa." "Oh, really? And what, you think you're gonna take the kids? The house? You think you're gonna come out of this on top?" "I know I will," I said, my voice steady. "Because unlike you, I'm not the one who destroyed this family." Her face twisted in frustration. She opened her mouth to argue, but then she saw it. Danny, standing there with his arms crossed, tears in his eyes. Jake, leaning against the wall, glaring at her like she was a stranger. "Jake," she said, her voice softer now. "Danny. This doesn't change anything, okay? I'm still your mother." Jake cut her off. "You're a liar!" Lisa flinched. Danny, who had been quiet this whole time, finally spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. "How long?" Lisa blinked. "What? How long have you been cheating?" I watched her face closely. She had a choice: lie, like she always did, or tell the truth and maybe salvage some tiny piece of dignity. She hesitated. Then, finally, she sighed. "A few months." I scoffed. "Try 6. Danny looked like he had been punched in the gut. "So, this whole time, when we thought you were just working late, you were with him?" Lisa tried to step closer to him, but he took a step back. That seemed to hit her harder than anything else. "Danny, No," he snapped. "Don't. Just don't." Lisa turned back to me, her eyes burning with fury. "You did this," she hissed. "You turned them against me." I shook my head. "No, Lisa. You did this. All I did was show them the truth." She looked at me like she wanted to rip me apart. "You really think this is over? You think I'm just going to roll over and let you take everything?" I smirked. "No, Lisa. I think you're going to lose everything all on your own." She opened her mouth to argue. Then the door swung open. And there, standing in the doorway, was my mother-in-law. Lisa's own mother. I had called her the night before. Sent her the audio. Told her everything. And now? Lisa wasn't just facing me and the kids. She was facing the one person she never wanted to disappoint. Lisa's face went pale the second she saw her mother standing in the doorway. "Mom?" she stammered. Her mother, Carol, stepped inside slowly, her gaze heavy with disappointment. I had known this woman for over 20 years, and I had never, not once, seen her look at her daughter like this. "I got a call from your husband last night," Carol said, her voice eerily calm. "He sent me a recording." Lisa's eyes darted to me, full of rage. "You called her?" I folded my arms. "Damn right I did." Lisa let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, so what? You're trying to turn her against me too?" Carol stepped forward, her voice firm. "Lisa, shut up." Lisa froze. Carol never raised her voice. Never lost her temper. But now, she looked like she didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of her. "I listened to the recording," Carol continued. "I heard everything. I heard the way you laughed about your husband. The way you talked about your own children like they were nothing but a burden." She shook her head. "Lisa, what the hell is wrong with you?" Lisa clenched her jaw. "Oh my God, enough with the dramatics. You're all acting like I murdered someone." Carol took a slow, deep breath. "No, Lisa. You didn't murder someone. But you killed your family." The room was dead silent. Lisa's hands trembled at her sides. "Mom, please." Carol held up a hand. "No. I don't want to hear your excuses. You can blame your husband, you can blame your job, you can blame whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you made this choice." Lisa turned back to me, her voice weaker now. "So, what happens now?" I exhaled slowly. "I already told you. We're done." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folder. Handed it to her. She hesitated before taking it. Her eyes scanned the pages. The color drained from her face. "You already filed for divorce?" I finished for her. "Yeah. And guess what? Since I have proof of your affair, you don't get a damn thing." Lisa's lips parted, but no sound came out. No house. No spousal support. No sympathy from the court. Nothing. "You don't get to hurt us and walk away clean," I continued, my voice steady. "You made this bed, Lisa. Now you get to lie in it." She let out a shaky breath. "And the kids?" I glanced at Jake and Danny. Jake didn't even look at her. Danny spoke for both of them. "We're staying with Dad." Lisa let out a sound, something between a scoff and a sob. She looked at her mother, maybe expecting some kind of support. But Carol just shook her head. "You are not welcome in my house," Carol said coldly. "If you need a place to stay, go to your boyfriend." Lisa's mouth opened and closed. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. I grabbed my keys. "You have 1 hour to pack your things," I told her. "And then I want you out of my house." Lisa flinched at the word. My house. Not our house. She swallowed hard, then turned and walked upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Carol sighed, rubbing her temples. "Jesus Christ, I raised her better than this." I shook my head. "Some people can't be saved, Carol." She gave me a long, sad look. "I'm so sorry." I nodded. "So am I." We stood there in silence for a moment. Then I turned to the boys. "Let's go get breakfast." Danny frowned. "What about Mom?" I exhaled. "Mom made her choice. Now it's time for us to move forward." And with that, we walked out the door. Lisa was no longer my problem. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free.